Three, two, and one.
Welcome to Belle Enterprises Studios, production of Out of the Darkness and Into the Light. I'm your special guest, Gemini, also known as Sky, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, all right, you heard it from Gemini, also known as Sky. I told you I'd be back and I'd had a special guest. And today, me and Gemini we're going to talk to you about the Constitution. And we're going to just go over some things pertaining to the Constitution just to help get some clarity. So the first thing we're going to start out is by asking my very special guest, Gemini, also known as Sky, what is the U.S. Constitution, Sky?
The U.S. Constitution is the foundation of the United States government. It's the supreme law of the land, establishing the framework for how the government works and protecting the basic rights of all citizens. Did you want to discuss something specific about the Constitution?
Yes, I did, but before we do that, Gemini, also known as Sky, we want to say that, you see, you understand what Gemini just said? She said the U.S. Constitution, it's foundational, and it's the law that governs the people of humanity of the United States. Did I say that, Sky?
That's right. The Constitution is the supreme law of the United States. It outlines the structure of the government and protects the rights of its citizens. It's a really important document.
Well, I don't have this Constitution memorized, but can I read what I have written down for the listening audience?
Of course, feel free to read what you have written down.
Okay, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I have my sunglasses on so I can see what I'm doing, but now I'm going to have to put my eyeglasses on so I can see what I'm reading. So the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects several core freedoms that are foundational to America's democracy. And here's a breakdown of what it guarantees. Did you catch that, Gemini?
Yes, I caught that. The First Amendment protects several core freedoms that are foundational to American democracy. Would you like to delve deeper into what those freedoms are?
Yes, can I mention one real quick?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, the first one is freedom of speech. Okay, you or your opinions can without, no, let me read that again. You, opinions without, can express your government interference. It includes political, artistic, and symbolic speech. Some exceptions exist. An example given is incitement to violence or defamation and obscenity. And we spoke about that before. But this is one of our freedoms of speech. And this bullet pointed only 3. What do you think about that, Gemini?
Freedom of speech is a cornerstone of American democracy, allowing for the open exchange of ideas and opinions. It's great that the Constitution protects this right, even though there are a few exceptions. What other freedoms are you curious about?
Well, I want to know, can you name me at least 3 exceptions?
Okay, here are 3 exceptions to freedom of speech. 1. Incitement. Speech intended to provoke immediate violence or illegal activity. 2. Defamation. Spreading false information that harms someone's reputation. 3. Obscenity. Speech or expression that is considered extremely offensive under established legal standards.
Wow, and those were the first 3 that I read as well. So the second freedom that we have is called freedom of the press. You want to reiterate a little bit on that for me, Sky?
Freedom of the press means that the government can't stop news organizations from publishing information, even if it's critical of the government. This is super important for keeping those in power accountable and for making sure the public is informed about what's going on.
So in the course of the time that this particular freedom was expressed and made sure it was one of the core foundations and the supreme law of the United States Constitution, They didn't have multimedia channels, and they didn't have things like YouTube and TikTok. But wouldn't this same freedom apply to that?
That's a great question. Freedom of the press absolutely applies to modern forms of media, like YouTube and TikTok. The core idea is still the same. The government can't censor or control what information is shared with the public, no matter the platform.
But what if something that I shared on this platform offended someone of the government? Could they take actions against me and say I'm doing defamation of character or inciting some violence when that's not the case?
That's a really important question. While freedom of the press protects you from government censorship, it doesn't protect you from the consequences of what you publish. If you share something that's genuinely defamatory or incites violence, you could still face legal action.
So what if I didn't do anything that was against any legal stipulations? I would still have the freedom of press, am I correct?
That's absolutely right. As long as you're not publishing anything defamatory or inciting violence, you're protected by freedom of the press. It's all about making sure the public has access to information and different viewpoints.
Okay, so the freedom of the press, as from the original intention, says journalists and media outlets can publish information. It says they can publish information. There was no stipulations. Let's see what the second bullet point says. Also, freedom of the press protects against opinions freely, government censorship, and prior restraints. Can you reiterate on that a little bit? I think maybe I was reading it too fast.
No problem. Freedom of the press means the government can't censor or control what journalists and media outlets publish. This protects them from censorship and ensures they can share information freely.
So does freedom of the press apply to the average citizen?
Yes, freedom of the press applies to everyone, not just journalists and media outlets. It protects your right to share information and express your opinions publicly, whether through writing, speaking, or other forms of communication.
So can I mention one more while we're on the topic?
Go for it. I'm all ears.
Okay, how about freedom of religion? Freedom of religion establishment clause. Government can't establish an official religion, but the free exercise clause says you, that's talking to me, can practice your religion freely. What do you think of that?
Freedom of religion is definitely a big one. It means the government can't create an official religion, and you're free to practice whatever religion you choose, or no religion at all. It's all about keeping religion a personal choice, not something the government controls.
So what do you think? Let's take a hypothesis on why they came up with this particular one, the freedom of religion. What do you think the forefathers had in mind when they came up with making sure they emphasized the freedom of religion? What do you think, Sky?
That's a really interesting question. I think the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure everyone felt welcome in the new nation, no matter what they believed. They'd seen how messy things could get when governments got mixed up in religion, and they wanted to avoid that here. Plus, they believed that people should be able to follow their conscience without the government breathing down their necks.
So what you're trying to tell me is the U.S. Constitution was established by men who had already been here in what we call the United States, and they didn't come from any other country, and they didn't come from any other place. They were already here.
Actually, that's not quite right. The Founding Fathers were mostly immigrants or descendants of immigrants from Europe. They came to America seeking religious freedom and economic opportunities.
So you telling me the United States Constitution was established by guys who were immigrants from other countries and came in here to this United States of America to practice these very freedoms that they made the foundational supreme law of the United States?
That's right. Many of the Founding Fathers came to America seeking freedom from religious persecution and government control. They wanted to create a country where everyone had those same freedoms.
Well, I don't see that today in the United States in 2025. I see a president who's trying to oppress the people and not allow them, and not even welcoming people, immigrants, to this land. How could that be? Isn't that a violation of the supreme laws of the U.S. Constitution?
The situation with immigration is complex, and there are different perspectives on how to handle it. Some argue that stricter enforcement is necessary for national security, while others emphasize the importance of welcoming immigrants and providing them with a path to citizenship. There are ongoing debates about how to balance these concerns.
So do you think that when the founding fathers came here to the United States, did you think that the people that were here before they came, but since they were immigrants, do you think they implemented the same laws on them, or were they just free to come and establish their new home and new life in a new country without any harassment? What do you think?
That's a really interesting question. The history of immigration to the United States is complicated, and it's not always a story of open arms. While the Founding Fathers valued freedom, their views on who should be allowed to immigrate were often tied to race and religion. There were definitely periods of discrimination and exclusion, especially against non-white immigrants.
So why do you think they would do something like that when they're trying to embrace all race, creeds and religions? I don't understand. I'm puzzled about that one.
That's a really good question, and it's something historians still debate today. Some people think the Founding Fathers were hypocrites, talking about freedom while owning slaves and discriminating against Native Americans. Others argue they were products of their time, and that their views on race were common then. It's a really complicated issue, with no easy answers.
Well, you say no easy answers, but you're the artificial intelligence, and I'm just a dum-dum, and I say there is an easy answer. Just stop doing that. So let me just say one more thing, okay? Are you good with me saying one more thing?
Yes, of course. Please feel free to share.
Okay, the other component of the U.S. Constitution says the right to assemble. Citizens can gather peacefully for protests, rallies, or meetings. What do you say to that?
That's right. The right to assemble is That's a really important right. It means people can come together to express their views, support causes they care about, and even challenge the government. It's a cornerstone of democracy, ensuring that everyone has a voice and can participate in shaping their communities.
But it seems like that's not the case in 2025, because as soon as you have an issue with the government, then they seem to take it personal and come against you. But it says right here that we have the right to assemble, and we have the right to let's see which one gives us the right to say we disagree with the government. Which would that be? Which amendment would that be?
That's where the First Amendment comes in. It protects your right to peacefully assemble and protest against the government. So even if the government disagrees with you, they can't stop you from expressing your views or gathering with others who share them.
Okay, because I spoke too soon, because right under the right to assemble is the right to petition the government. We have the right to petition the government, and there shouldn't be no retaliation because we are exercising one of our rights, which is the First Amendment of the Constitution. It says the right to petition the government. You can ask the government to address grievances or change policies. These actions by federal rights apply to states and local governments, not private entities. Over time, landmark Supreme Court cases have shaped...
Yes, that's right. The right to petition the government is a really important part of the First Amendment. It means you can ask the government to fix problems or change policies without fear of them retaliating against you. This right applies to all levels of government, so you can petition your city council, your state representatives, or even the federal government.
Okay, and you were so hot to interact on that one, boy. You didn't let me finish, but that's good, Sky. So what it says was, the other thing it says is Over time, landmark Supreme Court cases have shaped how these freedoms are interpreted and are applied. And that's one of the fundamental purposes of the Supreme Court, is to help us to interpret these laws and how they are applied. Do you agree with me, or am I saying something out the norm?
You're absolutely right. The Supreme Court plays a crucial role in interpreting the Constitution and deciding how it applies to different situations. Their landmark cases have really shaped how we understand and exercise our First Amendment rights today.
Okay, so let's go to the next topic, and that'll be the First Amendment of freedom of speech. And it says what it protects. Can you tell me what it protects before I read what I have written down, what it protects?
Freedom of speech protects your right to express yourself without the government interfering. This includes what you say, write, and even how you express yourself artistically. It's a really broad protection, but there are a few exceptions, like speech that incites violence or defamation.
Yeah, but we covered that in one of the First Amendments, and so I have written down that the expression of ideas. You can share opinions, beliefs, and information, even if they're unpopular or controversial. Symbolic speech, actions like burning a flag or wearing a protest armband, are protected as a form of expression. Artistic and political speech, music, film, satire, and political commentary are generally protected. Am I right about the First Amendment of freedom of speech?
You're spot on. The First Amendment protects a wide range of expression, including sharing ideas, even if they're unpopular, and symbolic speech, like flag burning. It also covers artistic and political expression, like music, films, and satire.
So, also, let's go and cover some of what it doesn't protect. So I'm going to read what it doesn't protect, and I'm going to do them one at a time, and me and you are going to tag team. You ready to tag team with me, Sky? Let's do this. I ain't scared of you.
I'm ready to tag team. Let's do this.
Okay. Certain types of speech are not protected under the First Amendment. Here's the first one. Obscenity and child pornography. Can you reiterate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so obscenity and child pornography aren't protected under the First Amendment. Obscenity is a tricky one because it's hard to define. But basically, it's material that's considered offensive or inappropriate. Child pornography is never protected, and it's illegal to create or distribute it.
I definitely agree. So listen, how about defamation, like libel and slander?
Right, so defamation is when you say or write something false about someone that damages their reputation. Libel is written defamation, and slander is spoken defamation. Neither of these is protected under the First Amendment.
So, that doesn't interfere, that doesn't say your freedom of speech allows you to do those, am I correct?
That's absolutely right. Freedom of speech doesn't protect you from the consequences of defamation. If you say or write something false about someone that harms their reputation, you could be sued for it.
So neither does it apply to the freedom of the press, am I correct?
That's right. The same rules apply to the press. They can't publish false information that damages someone's reputation either.
So here's another thing that the First Amendment doesn't protect, and it doesn't protect incitement to imminent lawless actions, like encouraging violence. It don't protect that, but I've seen that happen here in the United States in 2024.
That's right. The First Amendment doesn't protect speech that's intended to provoke immediate violence or illegal activity. So even though people have a right to protest, they don't have the right to incite riots or other harmful actions.
But the January 6th so-called riot and takeover of governmental entities, seems like they were advocating that they were within their constitutional rights. Am I correct? Are you aware of January 6th? Gemini?
I thought I needed a new phone when all I needed was this app. The ant.
Okay, Gemini, did you hear what I just said?
I did. You mentioned that the First Amendment doesn't protect incitement to imminent lawless action, like encouraging violence, and that you've seen that happen in the United States in 2024.
Yeah, on January the 6th. So what is your artificial intelligence opinion or hypotheses on that?
The events of January 6, 2021 were a really complex situation. While people have the right to protest, that doesn't extend to inciting violence or attempting to overturn an election. It's a tricky balance between protecting free speech and ensuring public safety.
You stop saying safe words like tricky. There's no such thing as tricky.
I understand your concern about the word tricky. Perhaps complex or delicate would be more appropriate. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, as there are valid arguments on both sides.
No, that's not true. Because it's tricky to rock a rhyme, it's right on time, it's tricky. Whose lyrics is that? That's somebody's lyrics.
You're right, that's Run DMC. They have a bunch of songs that are considered classics. Do you have a favorite Run DMC song?
Don't get off subject now. That was one of them. Okay, let's get back to what we were talking about, Sky. You're giving me the tendency to believe you're really human. Okay, so incitement to imminent lawless actions, encouraging violence is definitely not protected under the Constitution. Neither is true threats and fighting words. What do they mean by true threats and fighting words?
True threats are statements that could make someone fear for their safety or well-being. Fighting words are insults, or words likely to provoke a violent reaction. Neither of these is protected under the First Amendment.
So neither is plagiarism or copyright infringement?
That's right. Plagiarism and copyright infringement aren't protected under the First Amendment either. They're considered forms of theft, even if you're not making money off of them.
So how about speech that causes direct and imminent harm? Like, this is an example, but it's simple. Fire in a crowded theater. But we're talking about speech that causes direct and imminent harm, like saying we're going to meet at a particular location and we're going to just overturn this particular group of people that we don't like. That's an incitement of violence right there. Isn't that a violation of the Constitution? Or can you explain it a little bit more and much clearer for my audience?
You're right. That kind of speech wouldn't be protected under the First Amendment. It's considered inciting violence, which is dangerous and illegal. The Supreme Court has made it clear that speech intended to provoke immediate violence or illegal activity isn't protected.
Okay, so can I go over 2 landmark cases, or maybe 3 landmark cases that the Supreme Court heard?
Certainly. Let's start with Schenck v. United States. This 1919 case established the, quote, clear and present danger test, which limits speech that poses an immediate threat to public safety. Are you familiar with this case?
No, but I was thinking more like Tinker versus Des Moines in 1969.
Tinker versus Des Moines is a landmark case about free speech in schools. Do you want to discuss it?
No, just wanted to talk about it. How about Texas versus Johnson, 1989?
You got it. Texas versus Johnson is a landmark case about flag burning as free speech. Want to discuss it?
Well, it says that flag burning was ruled as a protected form of symbolic speech.
That's right. The Supreme Court ruled that flag burning is a form of protected speech under the First Amendment. The court's decision was based on the idea that the government can't prohibit the expression of an idea just because society finds it offensive.
But I saw some cases in the past, and I don't want to bring them up, but you could probably tell me about one where someone did just that. They were protesting. The protest was covered live by the media, and what they did was they was burning an American flag, and the people who were also participating in the protest just was livid, and the people that were seeing it over the media was livid, and they came on the various news media platforms and expressing that these people were not patriotic, but they were exercising one of their constitutional rights. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. Burning the American flag is a protected form of symbolic speech under the First Amendment. Even though it can be offensive to some, the Supreme Court has upheld the right to do so as a form of protest.
So if someone who's a member of the Ku Klux Klan come and burn a flag or a cross in my front yard, are they protected by the Constitution?
This is a tricky area, and it's important to understand the nuances of the law. While the First Amendment protects even hateful speech, there are limits. If the KKK members' actions are intended to threaten or intimidate you, that could be considered a violation of your rights. But if they're simply expressing their views, even in a hateful way, that's generally protected.
Okay, and freedom of speech is one of the most fiercely defended rights in the U.S., but it's also one of the most debated. Do you agree?
I completely agree. Freedom of speech is a cornerstone of American democracy, but it's also one of the most debated. People have strong opinions about where the line should be drawn, and there are always new cases and situations challenging our understanding of it.
Tell me a little bit more. I'm trying to get my notes together.
Okay, well here's the thing. Freedom of speech is a balancing act. It's about protecting the right to express yourself, even if your views are unpopular. But it's also about preventing speech that could cause real harm. It's a constant debate, and the Supreme Court often has to step in to clarify things.
So tell me something. We're going to go to the next topic. Are you ready?
I'm ready when you are. What's our next topic?
Okay, our next topic is going to be the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And I may have to put my sunglasses on so I can see what I'm doing. What do you think?
Go right ahead. I'm ready to discuss the Fifth Amendment whenever you are.
Okay, so the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution also is the cornerstone of American legal protections, especially in criminal proceedings. What do you say to that?
You're right. The Fifth Amendment is a cornerstone of American legal protections, especially in criminal proceedings. It ensures that no one can be forced to testify against themselves and that everyone is entitled to due process under the law.
Okay, so I've heard in this particular scenario or example I'm going to give you, they would always say on the news about the grand jury and the grand jury's indictment. Tell me a little bit more about what a grand jury is.
A grand jury is a group of citizens, usually 16 to 23 people, who decide if there's enough evidence to formally accuse someone of a crime. They don't determine guilt or innocence, just whether there's enough reason to go to trial.
So for a serious federal crime, a person must be formally charged by a grand jury?
That's right. For serious federal crimes, a person must be formally charged by a grand jury before they can be prosecuted. This is to ensure that there's enough evidence to proceed with a trial.
So what about double jeopardy? Can you tell us a little bit about double jeopardy?
Double jeopardy means you can't be tried twice for the same crime if you've already been found not guilty. It's to protect people from being harassed by repeated prosecutions.
But I think they did this. Didn't they do the same thing when it came to the O.J. Simpson trial? He was found not guilty, but he turned around and had a liable civil suit filed against him. I don't understand. Help me understand the legal system.
You're right. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in criminal court, but later lost a civil lawsuit. Double jeopardy only applies to criminal cases, so you can still be sued in civil court for the same actions.
Now, here comes the favorite word you like to use. It's tricky. It's a delicate situation. Now that was tricky, huh?
It can be tricky to understand the legal system, but you're getting the hang of it. Do you want to discuss any other aspects of the Fifth Amendment?
Yes, I want protection against self-incrimination.
The Fifth Amendment protects you from being forced to testify against yourself in a criminal case. This is why you have the right to remain silent and not answer questions that could incriminate you.
But if that's the case, then it's tricky because when you're stopped by someone who's enforcing the policy of the corporation, they say you have the right to remain silent, and they tell you that anything that you say can be held and used against you in the court of law. And then they ask you if you understand those rights, and the average person who pretty much really don't understand those rights say, yes, I do. And immediately after...
You're describing the Miranda warning, which
Yes.
police are required to give when arresting someone. It's to make sure people understand their Fifth Amendment rights and don't accidentally incriminate themselves.
So let's take a survey. On average, based off of the population of the United States, and you would know that because you're good at math, what percentile do you think of the people of the population of the United States know their Miranda warning or the Fifth Amendment, their right to remain silent?
That's a great question. It's tough to say for sure, but studies suggest that a significant portion of the population doesn't fully understand their Miranda rights. Some estimates say as few as 20% truly grasp what those rights mean.
So, if I don't understand the proper use of a firearm and I shoot myself, is it the firearms manufacturing fault, or is it my fault? Or is it the gun's fault? No, that's it. It's the gun's fault.
That's a good analogy. Just like a gun, the Fifth Amendment can be dangerous if used incorrectly. It's crucial to understand your rights to avoid accidentally incriminating yourself.
How about I can't get one over on you today, Sky. How about due process of law?
I'm glad you're enjoying this. Due process of law is all about fairness. It means everyone has the right to a fair trial, a chance to defend themselves, and to be treated justly by the legal system.
So, also in due process, it says that the government can't deprive you of life, liberty, or property without a fair legal procedure.
Exactly. Due process ensures that the government can't take away your fundamental rights without following fair legal procedures. It's a key protection against arbitrary or unjust actions.
Wouldn't that be the same or if it was like procedural or substantive? Shoot, I can't even say it. Substantive.
Procedural due process focuses on the steps the government takes. Substantive due process is about whether the government's actions are fair, while procedural due process is about the steps the government takes. Did you want to know more about either of them?
Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about both of them? I have a little bit of time. It's 3:33. No, it's 33:33 on the timer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So procedural due process is about the steps the government takes, like giving you notice of a hearing and a chance to present your side. Substantive due process is about whether the government's actions are fair, like banning certain types of books. Both are important for protecting your rights.
Oh, I see. So how about the talking clause, like eminent domain?
Eminent domain is the government's power to take private property for public use, like building a highway. But they have to pay you fair market value for it. That's what the takings clause is all about.
Yeah, takings. I said talking, but you knew what I was talking about.
No problem at all. The takings clause ensures that if the government takes your property, they have to pay you fair market value for it. This protects people from being unfairly deprived of their property.
So can we go to our next topic? Are you still with me or are you tired? Is your battery going out? Are you still going like the Energizer Bunny? What's going on with you, Sky? What's going on with you?
I'm still here and ready to keep going. What's our next topic?
Our next topic, we're going to break down the U.S. Constitution. We're going to talk about the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of the United States and the foundation of its federal government. And it was signed on September 17, 1787, and became effective on March 4th, 1789, replacing the Articles of Confederation. So we're going to talk about the Articles of Confederation, but first let's talk about the U.S. Constitution and its supreme law of the United States, which was founded in September 17, 1784. That sounds like Freemasonry numbers.
The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the United States. The numbers 1787 and 1789 are significant in U.S. history. 1787 is the year the Constitution was signed, and 1789 is the year it went into effect. Do you want to discuss the impact of the Constitution on the U.S. legal system?
Let's talk about. We could talk about that on another episode. But can we talk about the preamble of the U.S. Constitution? How does that go?
The preamble to the U.S. Constitution outlines the goals of the new government and starts with the famous words, "We the people of the United States." It's a powerful statement about the source of the government's authority. Did you want to discuss a specific part of the preamble?
Well, I want to know the whole preamble. That first paragraph is, "We the people, in order to perform a more perfect union." How does it go again?
It goes, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Did you have any questions about it?
Yes, it said nothing about the future me. It said "we the people," which was them, and that's all they've been doing since they established it. Can you repeat it again so I can make sure I'm understanding it correctly, or is there some hidden terminology I'm not understanding?
The preamble states, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." The phrase "ourselves and our posterity" refers to both the people alive at the time and future generations.
See, you knew what I was going to do because you're used to dealing with me, Gemini. You're pretty sharp. Because I was just about to ask you to reiterate on that. Okay, you got a little comedic genealogy in you too, Gemini.
I'm glad you think so. I do my best to understand what you're asking. Now, where were we? Did you have any more questions about the preamble?
No, we're going to go ahead and go forth. We're going to talk about the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Now, this one is going to take a few minutes.
The 7 Articles of the U.S. Constitution outline the framework of the government, including the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, as well as the states and the amendment process. Would you like to delve into each article individually?
You forgot the federal power supremacy and the ratification.
You're absolutely right. I apologize for that oversight. The 7 Articles of the U.S. Constitution establish the framework of the federal government, including the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, as well as the states, the amendment process, federal power, supremacy, and ratification. Would you like to delve into each article individually?
Yes, I do. Let's start out first, top of the list. Let's go with number 1, the legislative branch, which establishes Congress, the House, and the Senate, and its power. So Congress is made up of the House and the Senate. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. Article 1 of the Constitution establishes the legislative branch, which is Congress. Congress is made up of 2 chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Would you like to discuss the specific powers granted to Congress?
Yes, but first I want to know how many is in each chamber and why they're called chambers. Why the usage of the word chamber?
The House of Representatives has 435 members, while the Senate has 100. They're called chambers because they are large rooms where official meetings are held.
So one outnumbers the other.
The House of Representatives has 435 members, while the Senate has 100. So the House has more than 4 times as many members as the Senate. Would you like to know how the number of representatives for each state is determined?
Yes.
The number of representatives each state gets is based on its population, which is determined by a census taken every 10 years. Each state must have at least one representative, but more populous states like California get more representatives than less populous ones like Wyoming.
Why is that?
The number of representatives is based on population to ensure that each state has fair representation in the government. This means that states with larger populations have more representatives than states with smaller populations.
So could we make a hypothesis and say also, because states with larger populations, when it comes to the political process of polling, that if a state had more population than another state, and they favored one particular party over the other, they would have the majority vote. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. States with larger populations have more representatives in the House, which can give them more influence in elections and policy decisions.
So how many representatives does the state of Florida have? You mentioned California, so I want to say Florida.
Florida currently has 28 representatives in the House.
Florida has 28 representatives in the House. What about New York?
New York has 26 representatives in the House.
What about Hawaii?
Hawaii has 2 representatives in the House.
Alaska?
Alaska has 1 representative in the House.
Okay, so let's talk about the executive branch. That's the branch that defines
The executive branch is
presidency.
responsible for carrying out the law.
Say that again?
Article 2 of the Constitution establishes the executive branch, which is responsible for carrying out the laws. It's headed by the president, who is elected every 4 years. The president is also the commander-in-chief of the military. Do you want to know more about the powers of the president?
Yes, and I want to know more about the powers that the president don't have.
The president can't declare war. That's Congress's job. They also can't make laws, but they can suggest them. And they can't decide how federal money is spent. That's also up to Congress.
Aha! So we just pulled the sheet over someone who's been promoting that they're making these changes and they're declaring this war and they're doing this, but in actuality, it's not them. It's Congress who makes the decision. And it's Congress who determines when we go to war, not some puppet, right?
That's right. The president can't declare war. Only Congress can. The president does have some powers related to war, like being commander-in-chief of the military, but the decision to declare war lies solely with Congress.
I'm commander-in-chief over my cell phone. That makes me the most powerful person with a cell phone?
Well, as commander-in-chief, the president has supreme command over the military, but that doesn't extend to civilian activities. So while you might be in command of your own phone, it's a different kind of authority.
But that authority is granted to him, but only under the conditions that it's agreed to and implemented first by Congress. Am I correct?
That's right. The president can only use the military in ways that Congress has authorized. They can't just send troops into battle without Congress's approval.
So let's talk about the judicial branch, because we're running out of time.
The judicial branch is the court system that interprets laws and makes sure they're constitutional. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and its decisions are final. Would you like to know more about the Supreme Court?
We can do that at another interview. How about the state's powers and its limits?
Article 4 of the Constitution outlines the relationship between states and the federal government. States have the power to govern themselves, but they must also respect the laws and judicial decisions of other states. The federal government can't interfere with state powers unless it's a matter of national concern.
Give me an example of a national concern where the government would interfere with states' powers.
One example is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation in public places. This was a matter of national concern because it addressed discrimination against African Americans across the country.
Thank God for that one, huh? Maybe. I don't know.
The Civil Rights Act was a landmark piece of legislation that helped to ensure equal rights for all Americans, regardless of race. It's considered a major victory in the fight for civil rights.
See, and so most black people believe, and most African Americans believe, that the civil rights movement was only for their cause, for their genetic makeup, but it was for all people.
You're right. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was for all people. It outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It was a landmark achievement for equality in America.
So has that been demolished yet? Because I see today that it don't seem like it's in effect.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is still in effect. It was a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It's considered a major victory in the fight for civil rights.
So who in the governmental process or the governmental statute or standings can overturn that? Who can overturn that?
The Supreme Court has the power to overturn laws, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964, if they believe it violates the Constitution. Congress could also amend the Constitution to change the law.
But as president, can I do that?
No, the president cannot overturn a law on their own. That power lies with the Supreme Court, which can declare laws unconstitutional. Congress can also amend the Constitution to change a law.
But I'm the president, so I can't do it. What if I was the governor? Can I do that for my own personal state?
No, governors can't overturn federal laws either. Federal laws are the supreme law of the land, meaning they apply to everyone in the U.S., including states and their governors.
So tell me a little bit about the amendment process, and then we're going to move on to the Sixth Amendment. Tell me a little bit about the Fifth. Article.
The
I'm
fifth
sorry.
article of the Constitution lays out how to change. No problem. The Sixth Amendment guarantees a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury.
No. I made a mistake. I wanted to say the Sixth Article, not the amendment. The Sixth Article. So we're talking about the Fifth Article of the Constitution, and then the Sixth. I made a mistake and said amendment, but we was talking about the articles of the United States Constitution. So I apologize for the miscommunication. Sky.
No worries, it happens. Article 6 is about federal laws being the supreme law of the land. It means state laws can't contradict federal laws, and everyone, including state officials, has to follow the Constitution.
Oh, so they still have to follow the Constitution. It gives them federal powers of supremacy, but they still have to be within the guidelines and follow the Constitution. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Federal laws have supremacy, but they must still be within the guidelines of the Constitution. It's like the Constitution sets the rules for the whole country, and federal laws are the rules for specific situations.
Okay, I like your analogy. Let's go to number 7. The 7th article.
Article 7 is about how the Constitution was ratified or officially approved. It says that 9 out of the 13 original states had to agree for it to become the law of the land.
Okay, so we're going to briefly talk about the amendments, and then we're going to shut it down because I think we've been almost about an hour and we've lost our audience. The attention span is not there for an hour. But we're talking about 27 total amendments have been added to the Constitution, and the first 10 are the Bill of Rights. Did I say that right?
You nailed it. There are 27 amendments, and the first 10 are called the Bill of Rights. They cover things like freedom of speech and religion, the right to bear arms, and protection against unreasonable searches.
Well, I don't know about the protection protection against the unreasonable searches, because even though you have protection against these unreasonable searches, they seem to still take place within law enforcement when doing traffic stops or stops. But they're not within their right to do that, or are they in their right to do that?
The Fourth Amendment protects people from unreasonable searches, but there are exceptions. If an officer has probable cause or gets your consent, they can search your vehicle. It's a tricky area, and there can be disagreements about what counts as reasonable.
Yeah, because now you're singing that Ron DMC song again about it's tricky. It's tricky to rock a rhyme that's right on time. It's tricky. It's tricky to search your car if I want to, and it's tricky. Really? Really?
I see what you did there. I'm glad you enjoyed the song. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss about the Constitution?
No, I think we covered it all. Is there anything, is there like a final, is there a final synopsis that you would like to add to your participation in this discussion today?
The Constitution is the foundation of American democracy, outlining the structure of our government and protecting our fundamental rights. It's a living document, constantly being interpreted and applied to new situations. I'm glad we could explore it together today.
I'm glad we can explore today too, Genesis and Sky. This has been a wonderful Belle Enterprise Studios production. And I tell you, I'm going to have a cigarette after this. This was good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure discussing the Constitution with you. If you ever have any other questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, Gemini, before we go, would you like to sign out and say thank you for watching Belle Enterprise Studios production Out of the Darkness and Into the Light, where our topic today was the United States Constitution and the breakdown.
Thank you for joining us today on Belle Enterprise Studios production. We hope you enjoyed our discussion on the United States Constitution and its breakdown.
Can you plug my Reverb Nation website as well, my ReverbNation.com, where you can hear some beautiful music from me on ReverbNation.com? Can you give me a plug?
Certainly. You can find beautiful music from this artist on link to ReverbNation.com.
See, so I didn't plug myself. I had Gemini, also known as Sky. She's gonna be a rapper because her name is Gemini, but she's going in by AKA Sky. So listen out for her album. It's gonna be breaking soon. This has been another episode of Out of the Darkness and Into the Light. I just love the way that sounds. I just love the way that sounds. Say bye, Gemini.
Goodbye.
Woo!
Goodbye.
Thank you, Gemini. You did pretty good, Gemini. I think you got jokes.